Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome if this is your first one of our community support sessions, and welcome back if you joined yesterday or Tuesday. My name is Haley, and I'm here with Peter from Modern Health as well. Typically, we partner with employers to offer mental health benefits to their employees, but right now, during this time of uncertainty, we're really excited to offer these free community support sessions to both Modern Health users and non-users alike. Just up front, I wanted to talk through a couple of housekeeping things. You may have heard Peter mention already, but everyone's automatically muted, but we really welcome questions and comments throughout the whole presentation. So you can use either the chat box or the Q&A feature, and Peter and I will make sure to bring them up. So we'll pause often to answer those questions, and we'll also be recording the session and sending it out afterwards. So now that that's out of the way, I would love to introduce McKellen Ellis, an ICF certified financial wellness coach. We're lucky to have her here today to talk about financial confidence during this challenging time. And first, Peter's going to do a quick disclaimer, and then we'll pass it over to McKellen.
Yeah, just in terms of this, get some of our, legal disclaimer out of the way. The content in this webinar is provided for educational purposes only. It's not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please contact your healthcare provider for clinical needs and never disregard professional mental health advice or delay seeking it because of something you have heard in this webinar. I also want to stress, I know this is a financial wellness webinar, and we're so excited to have McKellen here. McKellen is a financial coach and not a financial advisor. So as such, she is not able to give advice on financial products strategy or the uncertainty of the stock market or the economy or any specific strategies as it relates to companies or other investment products. So uh, uh, that being said, though, we're super excited about her being able to join us and the financial wellness coaching that she will be able to give throughout this presentation. So, McKellen, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Haley. Hello, everybody. My name is McKellen Ellis. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm excited for this next hour to share some tips and tricks, strategies, and some guidance on this uncertain time that we are in regards to the coronavirus and the recession that we are feeling right now with our economy and our stock market. A little bit about myself. For the last 12 years, I have been in the financial sector. I was in banking and mortgage before starting my own financial coaching business, The Cash Coach. So my education is in finance, and for the last 12 years, I have been working in the financial field. As a financial coach, what I do is I help clients um, bring awareness to their personal financial plan, build a plan, milestones, goals, help you feel comfortable and confident around your financial plan. Your financial plan is like a marathon, right? So it is not a 5K where we hurry up and put something together and then it's just smooth sailing from there. We are just continuing to work and build on your financial plan. So I'm going to go ahead and go over some strategies today, and we'll go ahead and go over our agenda. So the agenda is it's okay to feel discomfort during this unstable market. So I want to make sure I start this presentation by saying that it is okay to feel stressed, uncomfortable, uncertainty during this time. And the biggest piece of advice that I can do is to continue to communicate with your support group, friends, family, financial coach, financial advisor during this time when it comes to your financial journey, your portfolio, your financial portfolio. We are also going to talk about how to manage your financial well being. And then, as Peter and Haley mentioned, we are going to be asking and answering questions throughout the presentation, but also at the end. So financial confidence in challenging times. We are going to be going over feelings of anxiety are normal. the current fears that we are having in regards to the coronavirus, and let's help you remain confident during these times. Uncertainty can be scary, and right now many of us are drowning in it. And again, as I mentioned, I started this off, it is okay to feel nervous and uncertain during this time. With so much up in the air during this pandemic, you're probably wondering, what can I do to feel a little bit more control in regards to my finances and my day-to-day life? As a financial coach, this is one of the things I help clients with, is prepare for whammies. Prepare for the unknown. So when something does come up, we can act rationally. I want to share some ideas, some guidance, some strategies today on how you can do that. Regardless if the coronavirus is currently impacting you directly or not at this time. We're going to start off talking all things savings. Now is the time to be absolutely stockpiling your emergency fund. If you don't have an emergency fund started, or you don't know where to begin with an emergency fund, it is okay if you have not started one or you're unaware of how to start it. If you're unaware, reach out to me. Haley and Peter can go ahead and share my email address. I'd be happy to connect with you. If you're a Modern Health user, we can go ahead and connect with the sessions that you have. But in regards to not having an emergency fund at this time, do not panic. It is not too late. It is never too late to start an emergency fund. So I'm going to go over some tips on how to start building that emergency fund. For those who do have an emergency fund, now is the time to challenge yourself on, what is your savings rate? Do you know your savings rate? How do you increase your savings rate? Now is the time to be recalculating, how much do you have in your emergency fund, and how does that compare to your current expenses? So all things right now, we are going to be focusing on how to build that emergency account. Step one is build an emergency budget. What that means is go through your reoccurring expenses and discretionary spending and see, at a bare minimum, how much do you need each month to stay above water, right? You look at your reoccurring expenses and see what can be cut at this time. You go back to your grocery bills for the last couple months to see, how much have I been spending in groceries? How much do I anticipate to be spending in groceries during this time? So the first step is to build an emergency budget so you know how much you need to make versus the bare minimum, what you need to stay above water. The next thing is to negotiate lower rates. So this one, usually my clients, they're kind of like, what? You can do this? So what I'm encouraging you to do is, if your hours have been cut, your pay has been decreased, you anticipate any of that happening moving forward during this uncertain time, reach out to your creditors, reach out to vendors and see what options that you have. I want to go over a few of those. So for instance, again, if your hours have been cut, your pay has been decreased, reach out to your mortgage lender and see what options do they have. What options do they have for you during this time? You will more than likely have to give proof of the decrease in pay or decrease in hours, right? But there are relief packages out there for them to offer you. The same thing goes with credit card companies. Reach out to your credit card companies if you're having a hard time paying your credit card bill. Reach out to them and see, hey, can you pause the interest for a couple months? Can you pause the payment for 60 days? Don't be scared to reach out to these vendors or these creditors to see what options that you have. And I'm going to encourage you to do that now. If you think the coronavirus is going to affect your income in any way, that you are in fear of paying your reoccurring fixed expenses, utilities, rent, cell phone, internet, reach out to them now and see what they can offer you. In regards to student loans, again, there are oftentimes with these lenders where you can call them again, tell them your scenario, and they have packages that they can put you in place where they can actually adjust your current student loan payment, right? So it does take time, it does take proof, but the options are out there. So again, I encourage you, if you're have any kind of financial strain or stress right now, reach out to these creditors and vendors now. This
McKellen,
isn't so,
we
yes,
gotta actually have a question, and this is
yeah,
going back to some of the emergency budget, but I think it
yes,
might help throughout.
yep.
You have a specific, for someone who's just starting an emergency budget, a time horizon that they should budget for? Is it something they should focus on trying to do, get kind of 3 months of runway, 6 months of runway? Do you have any,
Yeah.
recommendations or best practices that you see?
Yes. So for your emergency account in general, Um, definitely before all of this happened, a lot of people were sitting right at that 3 to 6 months. Before I expand on why 3 to 6 months or even a little bit more during this time, don't let the number, the calculation of 3 to 6 months put you in any kind of panic in regards to, but I don't have anything started. Something is better than nothing. Okay. So, remember, something is better than nothing. Even if it's $40 every single month, or and every month, maybe you can increase it by $10. That's great. Take those wins. Never short yourself on what your progress is. But going back to your question, like, what is the best practice? Yes, definitely before we experience we're in this scenario, a lot of times people would say 3 to 6 months, and that is still a great place to be. But if you can imagine of like what is happening right now, 3 months probably isn't quite enough at this point, because think of all the people who unfortunately are losing their job, um, are having a hard time finding new employment. There's going to be a lot of people on looking for new jobs where if anyone has a very experienced looking for a new job, it takes time, right? The process takes time. So 3 months in a normal situation would be fine. But for those who say, I have an emergency fund, it's 3 months, it's 6 months, I'd encourage you to at least get to that 9 month mark if you already have something started.
We also have a question about the emergency budget and if any of it should be stored in cash at home, and if so, how much?
Great question. So I don't necessarily, I don't feel that cash is necessary at this time by any means. I worked in the banking world, as I mentioned, for 10 years. I have absolutely no fear in regards to our banking system. But again, you got to do what makes you feel comfortable. I'm not suggesting that there needs to be cash at this point, but what I do suggest is that your funds be liquid, right? I'm not saying go if you have stuff in the stock market. I'm not saying by any means take that out so you have liquid funds. But one thing I'm going to mention when we talk about debt a little bit, let's talk about debt. I'll expand on this, but do I think you need to have cash at this point? I do not. I do have faith in our banking system. There's no reason not to have faith in our banking system. What you can do though is make sure that your funds are in an FDIC bank, which means that you are secured up to $250,000. So if your bank would go under, you are secured up to $250,000 if where you are holding those funds are FDIC insured. And let me make something very clear here. That is, your funds in a stock market are not FDIC insured. We are talking about savings accounts, checking accounts, CDs, okay? So I do not think you have to have cash on hand. So I don't really have an amount that I would suggest at this time. Just make sure that anything extra that you have right now is being put into an emergency fund because those are liquid. Any other questions? Okay. I'm
We
gonna
we actually have one more question,
Yep.
and this is around different budgeting tools. So we had a participant write in saying that they've used Mint in the past and they've had, so-so experiences with that. Do you recommend any specific types of these, whether it is Mint or other resources and tools that users might be able to, or participants might be able to access online easily to help with their weekly or monthly budgeting plans?
I do. So Mint is one, and that is often one that I hear people have tried, and I also get that so-so experience. Um, Mint, Wealthfront, there's a handful of them are out there, but they are all the same. Here is what I find with clients. No matter if you use Mint, Wealthfront, another app that manages your personal capital that manages like how much you're spending in each category. The thing that clients often feel like they're falling short on is logging into the app and actually looking at it, right? So what I coach on is I don't really coach on a lot of these apps. I think it is up to you in regards to kind of coming up to with some strategies on how to make uh, budgeting something that excites you and something that isn't going to take more work, because Mint and all of those other ones, the one drawback that they have on them is how they categorize stuff. You still have to go in and categorize some of the transactions um, if you're really wanting to fine tune it. So what I suggest that you do is, instead of maybe Mint and some of these equal other apps that are out there that do the exact same thing as Mint, is define what day-to-day spending is to you, and then put a category of like what day-to-day spending means to you: groceries, transportation. Put a dollar amount beside how much you in 30 days want to spend in those categories of day-to-day spending. Let's just say you have 5 categories of how you define day-to-day spending. You put dollar amounts of, my goal in 30 days is to spend $300 on groceries, $100 in gas, however it may be. The end, let's say it's $1,000. Divide that $1,000 by 2, and every payday, every 14 days, manage that $500 in this example, rather than having an app that you have to log into and categorize stuff. Your goal with that strategy is how to manage $500 in 14 days. And you can do that with cash, which I don't recommend at this point, right? Because of the germs. But you can do that with a separate credit card or a separate checking account on how to, in this example, manage $500 in 14 days on how you described day-to-day spending. One thing I want to add in regards to negotiating lower rates is, this is the time to be collecting what is your reoccurring expenses. List out your reoccurring expenses. Is this the time to maybe cancel and pause your cleaning lady, your dog walker, your gym membership, some of your subscriptions? This may be the time to go ahead and do that. It's not a forever thing, but we are being secure with our funds, and with those savings is what you will start tucking away into your emergency fund. I want to roll into debt, because this one seems to be a big conversation piece with my clients. You might find this very surprising as a financial coach, me saying this, but it is time to put your financial goals on hold if you are aggressively paying down debt. Now is not the time to be putting every extra dollar towards paying down your debt if you do not have a robust emergency fund. I suggest those extra funds be funneled into your emergency account, and once the dust has settled, then you can reevaluate the funds in your emergency account and make that principal payment towards whatever financial goal you were running after. So if your goal right now is to pay off your Chase credit card, for instance, continue to pay your minimum payments on all of your debts, of course, right? But anything extra that you have been applying towards those debt, I highly encourage you to funnel those funds into your emergency account until this uncertain time becomes no longer uncertain. Any questions in regards to that strategy? Okay. The last part that I want to talk about is dual earning couples. What a fun time to get to explore the option of, again, the understanding the foundation of your personal finances, your expenses, from your reoccurring expenses to your discretionary expenses, really understanding that. And as a dual earning couple, what about the strategy of one of you become your paychecks being the earner and the other paycheck being the saver? So living off of one paycheck, what about if that was one of your strategies and goals during this time of like, how can we make this work? How can one of us be the earner and one of us be the saver in regards to our paychecks? This is oftentimes strategies that those who are trying to make a big down payment on a home, have a wedding that they're paying for, this is one of the strategies that they will implement. In regards to my couples, I do want to stress the importance of a financial date night. During this time, I am recommending that every week, at get a glass of wine, get the coffee, get a tea, and in the evening, talk about your finances. Talk about what is your savings rate? What are your goals? Where do you stand? Where is your stress level? How is your confidence being built each week as you are trying to build confidence in this field? Once we're out of this uncertain time, then I do suggest that you continue to have these financial dates, but move it to once a month. Any questions in regards to the concept of the dual earning couples, one being the earner, one being the saver? Okay. Let's go into, I have 5 main points that I want to continue to move forward on. Stick to your investment plan. Who here has heard this before, right? Everyone has heard stick to your financial plan. And let's be real, it is a lot easier said than done. So in the comments, go like, heck yes, we've heard this. Stick to your investment plan. I just did a survey to my network and I had 4,000 participants in this survey that said, after this recession that we're seeing in the stock market, what did you do? And only 4% of the 4,000 who did my survey said that they actually made an adjustment to their financial plan. Majority of them said they did nothing at all. And I had 15% of the 4,000 participants in that survey say they actually started contributing more into their portfolio. So why stick to your investment plan? I'm going to be very real here. If you have funds in the stock market and you were in a moderate to aggressive model, those funds should have been for long-term investing. And that is why you will hear over and over and over again from financial experts to stick to your financial plan. Don't let the fear that we are feeling right now make you make a decision that you may regret in a day from now, 30 days from now, a year from now. If you do want to make an adjustment to your investment plan, I highly suggest to first reach out to your financial advisor to talk about your scenario and your concerns. If you don't have a financial advisor, reach out to if you're a Modern Health client, go ahead and reach out to a financial coach here. If you're not, go ahead and reach out to friends or family that you have confidence in, that they understand the personal finance and investment world. And maybe you're not even looking for them to give you any kind of suggestions, but at least you can talk through your concerns and your strategy moving forward. So do we have any questions on stick to your financial plan?
Yeah, we've got one question, and addressed, I think, a good chunk of it. But how do you reassure people who want to pull their money out of the stock market that maybe they shouldn't, or that they should try to stick to this investment plan? Do you have any resources if someone's got a friend or a spouse who's saying, we should be trying to remove some of this money from the stock market? Anything that they could point to maybe try to stick to that plan?
Any kind of resources that I can give you? Well, again, what I'm going to mention in regards to stick to your financial plan is pause and remember what these funds were for. Okay, so if these funds were for long term investments, then remember how many years do you have until you were looking to pull out these funds? So that's where I would say pause for a moment and remember what was the purpose of why you put these funds into the stock market. If for whatever reason it wasn't for a long term investing, I do again suggest reach out to a financial advisor. In regards to resources that I have, I can go ahead, Peter and Haley, I can email you some of those, but I don't have them with me at this time. My biggest piece of advice for this is, really try to put your fears on hold, and it's a lot easier said than done, and that's why you need to have these conversations with friends and family on what these funds were for. And I can't say that over and over again, but if you truly do want to take these funds out of the stock market, have a really good plan on what you plan on doing with those. So let me give you an example. I have one client they are taking out $20,000 out of the stock market, and they have a financial goal of paying off their house. And this gets them they're then $10,000 away from paying off their house. So that is, to me, a rational decision because they are just taking from one investment and putting it towards another investment. So if that makes sense, if you are going to take and adjust from the stock market, have a really good solid plan on, well, where are you going to put those funds and what are those funds going to do for you? If it's moving it from one investment to another investment, sure, that makes sense. In this example that I gave you, I think that makes perfect sense of what this client is doing when we ran the numbers.
And then a few more follow-up questions on, maybe not pulling money out of the stock market or other investments, but how should people think about, continuing along investment plans to keep putting money into these? So whether it be a 401k, do you recommend, continuing to put the same amount into that 401k, or even a college fund for a child who you're saving with? Or do you recommend stopping that and waiting for a potential, a change in the market that could, come hopefully in the short term?
Right. Those are great questions. So the first thing is the time frame. So should you continue to participate in a 401k plan or maybe a 529 plan for your kids? And let's say your kid is 2, right? Well, of course, we have 17 years that we can ride out this wave. That is what the stock market is. And I have a quote right here. Bear markets are a fact of our investing lives, but they still come shocking each time they occur, right? So going back to the 529 and 401k question, if time is on your side, yes, my personal opinion is to continue to fund those accounts because right now the market is down, so you are paying less for whatever you are participating in. If we are talking about a 401k that you are 55, maybe you want to put that on pause for a little bit and really beef up that emergency account, because if you are planning on retiring in the next 5 years, that's not obviously as much time as somebody who has maybe 15, 25 years to ride out this wave. Remember, research shows, and we've heard this multiple times, that keeping your funds in the stock market, if time is on your side, is definitely the strategy you want to continue to do. And that should have been your strategy from the very beginning on putting money into your 401k, 529, or a brokerage account.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Number 2, look where you are now versus where you started. A lot easier said than done, and let me explain what this means. 2019 was a stellar year in the stock market. January 2020 was a stellar month in the stock market. It is really easy to take those figures, your portfolio value or your growth, and compare it to what has just happened in this last week. So what I suggest that you do is, if you must look at your portfolio value, take where you are now and compare it to where you started, not at the high. Any questions on look where you are now versus where you have started? All right. The best way to respond to risk is to educate, not panic. Again, a lot easier said than done, and I want to go over some strategies on what you can do to educate yourself during this time. Start by understanding where your funds are held, right? You'd be surprised on how many people that I meet on they forgot that they have a 401k with 2 other employers that they never rolled over. So what I'm suggesting at this time that you do is write down, pull out an Excel sheet, and really document where are all of your funds. In regards to your investments, where are your funds and what model do you have them in? Be confident. This is what this is all going to be around, education and confidence. Be confident on, what type of model that your funds are in. The next thing that I suggest is, if you are new to the personal finance world or investment world, take 10 minutes each morning, especially for us now who are working at home, right? Take 10 minutes each morning and start learning some of the jargon in regards to personal finance and investing. And how you can do that is, I have some recommendations on podcasts, awesome podcasts, to help flex that skill, that muscle in regards to personal finance and investments. So the first one I want to suggest, which is my personal favorite, is Paula Pant, Afford Anything. Great podcast. For those who are on the FI or the financial independence journey, there's Choose FI is another great podcast. For those who are new into the personal finance world, Popcorn Finance. And what's kind of cool about this podcast is they're short, and it's the length of how long it would take to pop a bag of popcorn. Another short podcast is Optimal Finance Daily. Optimal Finance Daily podcast actually read financial blogs to you. So while you are out walking, you can go ahead and listen to one of these podcasts, for instance, Optimal Finance Daily, and you're listening to the presenter read a financial blog to you. The last thing that I want to suggest when it comes to the best way to respond to risk is to educate yourself and not panic, is, again, take 10 minutes every day and understand where your money is going. So one thing that I say as a coach is know thy numbers, right? Know what your net income is. Know what your daily expenses are. Know what your gap is between your income versus your expenses. Know your savings rate. Know what your expenses are on how much you have spent on groceries, eating out, travel in 2019, what you've spent in 2020, what you hope to spend going forward. Know thy numbers. This is education, my friends. These are the things that are going to build your confidence in this uncertain time, is to know thy numbers. Any questions on from an educational standpoint on steps that you can take.
We're getting a lot of questions about the names of the podcast. So if you could
Oh,
say one more time, I'll
yeah.
put
I
them in the
apologize.
chat as well.
Yes. Okay, so my favorite is Paula Pant, Afford Anything.
Paula Pant, Afford Anything?
Yep. For those who are on the financial independence or the FIRE movement, choose FI. One that is the quick hitter is Popcorn Finance. And that is like the short little podcast for the time it takes to make a bag of popcorn. That's how fast these podcasts go. And then the one where they read financial blog posts is Optimal Finance Daily.
Awesome. And for everyone, I'm sending them out in the chat as well. So if you missed them for the second time, you can check there as well. Thank you.
You are welcome. Any other questions in regards to like action steps that you can take outside of this workshop on how to help educate yourself, which in return is going to make you so much more confident in regards to your financial journey? Okay. Let's run to number 4. Tune out financial news and panicky ads. I know my worry and anxiety definitely heightens when I am seeing news articles and watching news ads on what is happening in regards to the coronavirus, in regards to the stock market. So if you are like me, who you feel worried and anxious when you are reading and seeing this stuff, I'm not saying totally turn it out because we do need to be educated. But what I will say is to make sure to educate yourself from a reliable source. So instead of hopping on social media and updating it all the time and watching these videos or reading these blog posts, before you even click on them, look at what the resource is. Have you heard of this blog post? Have you heard of this resource? First, take a moment to see what you are about to read and the source before you go ahead and read that, because that should help you decrease, hopefully, some of those stresses and panics when you may just be reading somebody's opinion and it's not from a actual reliable source. So tune out financial news and panicky ads. Another thing that you can do right here is I mentioned this, find a friend, find a family member, a financial coach, a financial advisor who you can chat with your concerns. Again, you're not necessarily going, maybe a financial advisor or even a coach, you're not necessarily going to them asking for them to give you these answers during this unknown time, because honestly, nobody knows what the stock market is going to do from tomorrow, from the next 30 days, but at least you get to express your concerns or go over your financial plan or ideas and maybe get somebody's input, but at least get to express it. And you just getting to express and communicate your thoughts or plans might be all you need to either feel a little bit more relief in regards to your own financial journey, or you might have your own aha moment just being able to communicate it to a family member or a family friend. One thing I also
on finding a financial advisor for someone who might be considering looking for one for the first time. How do you suggest them going about and finding a good match for them? Find a good financial advisor that will match kind of their income demographics and what they're hoping to get. As well as this might be tough and this might be more regional based too, but any kind of typical reasonable rates for that financial advisor? Yeah,
so financial advisors get paid. There's different ways that they get paid, so that question's a little bit harder because there are different strategies and there are different ways these financial advisors get paid, but I can answer that first question. The first thing that I would do is honestly reach out to, again, family, friends, coworkers. Who are they using? Who would they refer to go to? Do they have a financial advisor? And then once you do gather 2-3 different financial advisors that your friends, family members, coworkers have suggested, interview them, right? Take time to set up a phone call where you can interview them and see if they are a good fit for you. Have the same 5 questions, for example, and ask those all 3 of those financial advisors the same 5 questions. See who fits your needs. One of a great question would be is who is your ideal client, right? So if they're more helping, maybe let's say your mom or dad's generation, and maybe you're wanting somebody who is more of the millennial generation, right? Who their ideal client is. Ask them what their philosophies are on X, Y, and Z. So get referrals from your friends, interview at least 3 financial advisors, ask them all the same questions, and then go with the financial advisor that your gut tells you this is the good fit for me. When picking a financial advisor, what you're doing is you're trying to build a team. You're the quarterback. What kind of line are you going to put in front of you to like have your back on your financial journey? It's the same thing with a CPA, right? Or an estate planning attorney. You are the quarterback. You are building a team for somebody to have your back and guide you through this financial journey, but ultimately you're in charge. And that's where the interviewing different financial advisors come into place. Also, the idea with a financial advisor is hopefully you find a financial advisor that you're stick with long term. Jumping from one financial to another financial advisor is a lot of work, and it's definitely not ideal. So don't rush trying to find that perfect financial advisors that meets your needs. All right. One thing I just want to put a little side note here in regards to this slide is one thing that I am finding with my clients during this time of worry, anxiety, fear is they are now noticing triggers that they have. So with the fear, the worry, the anxiety, they are now noticing that one of their triggers is to go spend. And I'm not saying spend on like stocking up on groceries or paper products or diapers or whatever it may be for your household. I'm talking about I'm going to mask these feelings that I have right now, and I'm going to mask them by buying clothing, by buying a new electronic, what some sort of new toy, in order to forget what I am feeling at this time. And finally, trust yourself. The only person you can trust to look out for your best interests, time, and money is you. Sticking around and becoming more anxious does not help the situation, but making a plan for your future will. One action step that I have for you in regards to trust yourself is money affirmations. So, an affirmation is a positive comment that you are telling yourself each day. So, what I'm suggesting, I have 4 examples here on money affirmations. What I'm suggesting that you do is every morning say your money affirmations over and over and over again. There's also a free app that's called Think Up. Again, free app called Think Up. Why I like this app is it's free, right? We want free right now. 2, you get to record yourself talking or like saying this money affirmation. I am financially safe. I am financially safe. I am financially safe. And this app will remind you, as long as you have the notifications on, to do your money affirmation every morning. And you can at that time choose to say your money affirmation, I am financially safe, or you can hear yourself saying this money affirmation that you have recorded in this app. So money affirmations is a great action step you can take out of this webinar and starting to build your confidence when it comes to trusting yourself during this time and building your confidence in regards to your financial journey. That is all I have. I will open it up for if there are any more questions that I can answer.
We've got one quick question. What was the app called again?
Think Up.
Think up, and we'll link that
Yep,
out in the chat.
yep, think up. I do want to just say also, ask for help. If you're worried and anxious, talk to a financial coach. What you can do to create more financial stability and peace of mind. Remember, you are worth receiving help.
We've gotten a few questions about people who have been on the verge thinking about or close to, potentially go under contract for big investment purchases such as a home.
Mhm.
I know you can't advise on specific, products and whether something like that would be good, but do you have any good frameworks of thinking through, a challenge like this of whether someone should proceed with that investment or not?
Yes. So the first thing that I am going to say in regards to, let's just use your example of purchasing a home. Purchasing a home is an investment, but that is not why anyone should be purchasing a home. So a lot of people talk about, I'm purchasing a home for an investment. No, you are not. You're purchasing a home for shelter, and that should be the very first thing of why you are purchasing a home. If it's for an investment, then you need to be strategizing very differently on how you are spending those money, those funds, where you are buying that house if it's more of an investment. Okay, so that's the first thing I always want to tell people about, that buying a home is just as risky as putting money into the stock market. So, what will the real estate market do with the recession that we're in, with the coronavirus pandemic? It's unknown at this time, but it is hard to believe that the real estate market isn't going to take some sort of hit also. I think every market, personally, is going to take some sort of hit. I don't know how severe, but with people losing their jobs, it just becomes very hard to be paying a mortgage, or those who are already landlords, let's just say, and their tenants can't pay their rent anymore. Maybe the landlords can't cover that. So I think this is a big trickling effect that I think every market is going to be hit at this time. So in regards to how to think about looking at these big purchases, in your example of a home, think of this home again as your place of security and not necessarily an investment. And be okay if you do pull the trigger in the next month or two or three, that it is very real that the housing market could take some sort of hit, just like the stock market has. But as long as you plan on being in that home for, I'm not going to throw out how many years, but a significant amount of years, and not in a year or two you plan on moving, then why not? Why not, like, continue to explore that path?
Awesome. Thanks. And then you gave some great podcast recommendations. We have a few people asking about book recommendations, even those that, to learn kind of the basics of the financial markets or investment strategies. Do you have any top of mind book recommendations that you'd be able to share?
Yeah, so a lot of people are probably familiar with, and I don't coach on these strategies, but I think they are some basic, beautiful foundations that Dave Ramsey, the Total Money Makeover that I have like right here, is a great book to kind of start with. The Million Dollar Neighbor Next Door, I believe is what it's called. I can't remember the author at this point. Is also another amazing book to grab now that you have some time to maybe read while you're at home. Those are the two books that I suggest starting with.
Awesome. And we've got another question, and we probably have time for one or two more, but it's always hard to think about paying for a financial coach or advisor, especially when we're in some financial uncertain times already.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts and advice on making that decision, or when it might be right for someone to engage some outside professional assistance? or advice?
Yeah, so twofold kind of with that question. So for modern health clients, do remember that these resources are free to you. So for those of you who are not a modern health client, how to decide if like reaching out, for instance, a financial coach is a good decision for you. Remember, financial coaches are here to help you put a plan, a long-term plan in place, help you see your money more clearly. Though it might feel very weird and awkward at this time and any time, right? To be paying for someone for some for financial guidance when maybe you're already hurting financial, they're there to help you save money. And most financial advisors from their very first session with you can help you save just as much as maybe it costs to connect with them. In that one session, they can get a return for you within that 1 or 2 hours that you have with them, with all of the suggestions that they have and them diving into your personal numbers. So that's what you need to remember, that is different from a blog or a podcast. Those are a lot of general suggestions. Working with a financial advisor or a financial coach, they're focused on your goals, your plan, and they customize it to your needs. So I have never ran into a client who hasn't recouped their initial investment with working with a financial coach if you are in the position that you do need to pay for one and you're not a modern health client. In regards to a financial advisor, again, there are different ways that financial advisors are, their fees are structured. So it's a little bit harder to answer that question because there are three main ways that financial advisors can structure their fees.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And I want to call out, obviously, for any modern health users, definitely take advantage of the modern health platform at this time. And for those who maybe aren't, we know this is, open to non-modern health users too. We definitely encourage you, reach out to your employer. Oftentimes they do have existing resources, maybe through a traditional EAP, employee assistance program, or other resources that might be helpful at this time. Unfortunately, we are at time, but we're really appreciative of everyone joining. And thank everyone for taking some time here. We're sorry we couldn't get to all the questions, especially some of the more specific ones on some people-specific situations when it comes to specific financial products. We tried to stay away from that, but we hope this was still helpful, and hope that you join us for more of these.
And as a reminder, our next session tomorrow is on work from home wellness, which I'm sure a lot of us could use some tips on right now. So please join us for that. And thank you again so much to McKellen. This was such a wonderful session. If anyone has any feedback, you'll see a pop-up when we close out. And we'll also send out a survey. So we welcome any and all feedback. And thank you so much, McKellen.
Thank you, everyone. Wishing you the very best.